Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach.
I'm Mac.
And today we're giving our first impressions of Tiletum, or Tiletum, or Tiletum.
Apparently, it's the Latin pronunciation Tiletum or Tiletum for tile.
Yes. Well,
which apparently which used to be the name of a city in Belgium, but that is now Tilet, I think, is how Wikipedia told me to pronounce it. Tilet.
Okay.
I don't
Good
know.
information. I will say...
Tiletum.
I called it Tiletum the first few times I saw it, so... yeah, try to do our best.
The game with tiles.
The game with tiles. But yeah, this one's coming from Danielle Ticini and Simone Luciani, who are known for doing mid to well,
T-games.
Probably depends who you ask. Mid to heavyweight Euro games. I would say they're more of the heavier side of our collection. But some people probably say, "Oh, it's really light, easy game" when they were playing their Lacerdas.
Well, they're liars.
Or whatever. But yeah, this was one that, because of those designers, I was a lot more interested in. I know you maybe weren't as much, and it fits in the T series of games from Board and Dice.
I had no idea that it was in that T series or anything. Based on the look of the box, I thought it was a simpler game.
It definitely looks more approachable than some of their other ones, and I don't.
But I should have known.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be buying no medium weight game.
Why would I do that? But yeah, so this one is a game where you have... What are you doing, Maggie?
Well, it's an action selection.
Yep. Dice drafting.
Yep.
To select that action.
And you're doing stuff.
You're going around a board and you're
Yeah.
placing out columns and houses, and just scoring points in kind of some various ways.
Yeah.
And it probably kind of depends. In our one game of it, so one of the things that you do at the end of each round is kind of do some scoring, and that will change from game to game as to where that scoring will happen, because it's kind of the board is a map of
Western
Europe. And there's different cities there, so at these different cities there will be a fair or whatever at the end of each round, where you'll be judged, and there'll be some scoring condition.
But only if you have presence in
But
that
only if
city.
you have presence in the city, yes. So, yeah, you're trying to do certain things to meet those conditions and also get presence in the city.
Yes.
While also managing a lot of other cool things, I would say. I think the most interesting thing in the game, I would say, is the action selection dial, where at the beginning of each round, there's a certain number of dice rolled, and depending on the results, it's kind of like a Grand Austria Hotel or a Pulsar, I forget the number.
2849.
2849, where you allocate the dice as to what their value is that was rolled. So if you rolled a bunch of ones, they're all going to be on this action, and twos will be on that, threes, so on and so forth. And based on those, like on the opposite side of the die, whatever the die value is, you'll get that much in resources, but the opposite value of the die is how many action points you'll get. So it's kind of that cool mix of trying to choose, do I need a lot of resources, or do I need some action points in that specific thing? It just gives you that interesting decision where maybe some turns you'll just kind of be looking for heavy resources so that you can kind of pile up some resources in order to kind of take those actions at a later time. And yeah, I think that system works really well once you understand the actions.
Yeah.
I think then it flows a little bit better. Otherwise, right away, it can take a little bit to fully grasp what you can kind of do with each action. And then there are...
And how that interplays with how you're trying to get points.
Right.
Both for the interim scoring and the end of game scoring.
Right. And then there's also some bonus tiles you can get, which can allow you to kind of take actions within actions So it definitely gets to be a lot of
I'm getting a headache again just thinking about
kind of
thinking about it.
a lot of what I would call a lot of fun. but but I could see how maybe it could definitely be overwhelming. And we did play this at 2 players, and I would say with that, with the option to potentially have bonus tiles that trigger kind of other actions potentially within your actions that you're currently taking. So your turn could potentially take several minutes. I think at 4 players, this game would be really, really long, and I think you'd definitely feel it in between turns, like, oh, this is taking a long, long time, potentially. But at 2 players, I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
I think, especially since it was our first game, it's going to take a little bit to
Yeah.
fully be like, okay, I can do that and do this and do that.
Typically I feel like you just sit there and just wait for your turn because it's hard to plan too much, especially in this game. But I did, because it was our first time and there's so much to think about, I did sit there thinking, what do I do? And I don't normally do that.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot. And yeah, I think versus some of maybe their other games, the resources in this one are a little, if you've played kind of Teotihuacan, I think the resources here are a little bit more easily accessible. It didn't, I mean, there's times where it's like, I wish I could, I had a few more resources to do something, but overall I didn't feel like, oh man, I really, really need those resources. Well, you didn't
feel like that because you got all of the bonus tiles.
Let's hear her experience.
And you got first player over and over and over again.
That's true.
So let's not act like you weren't #blessed.
It seemed like you had a good amount, though.
Well, see, I was foolish, and I went off to one side of the board, and then I was like, well, look at that. That it's like one space apart there for all of those.
Okay, they were not one space apart.
2. I had to go like 4 spaces.
They were a ways.
No, they weren't.
They were.
No.
Otherwise, I could have triggered and.
Ridiculous.
But yeah, I really like the puzzle that this game creates for sure. I think the way that you can take actions and stuff and be like, okay, if I do that, that can trigger this, which can trigger that.
This is definitely his groove of the game.
I really, really enjoyed my first play of it. I just wish some of the stuff looked a little bit better. Yeah. I will say the board is not the greatest looking. I think it's well laid out. I don't know. I wish it had a little bit more color or something. And then I think, like a lot of people mentioned, the dice are kind of a pain. They were not the best choices of colors for dice/resources.
I think they could have used some better iconology too, and just overall more.
Yeah, 'cause they had steel and anvils, and I just feel like I wouldn't have used both of those.
Yeah.
Because the colors were some of the closer ones, and then they're just kind of similar things in my mind. Like, I feel like some games will choose like, oh, the actual metal itself, or else they'll use maybe an anvil or something, or a hammer or something to represent pretty much that same thing. So it just got a little bit confusing sometimes. You'd be like, oh yeah, that resource is that, and then you're like, oh wait, no, that's not that one.
Yeah. The icons are almost like, obviously an anvil versus a block is different, but like the top of the anvil is so close to just a brick that it's like one and the same when you're thinking, because that's like just only like 1/4 of the things you're thinking about as you think about everything else. So
so but you can see our unboxing video if you want to get a closer look at kind of the components and stuff and see what your thoughts are on those. But yeah, I
just laugh because it's like you've got these cardboard tiles, and then you got these like 1.5-inch tall pillars.
That is funny. The buildings are like really small, and the pillars are just these huge things. I did find that kind of funny that they weren't like very comparable in sizes, but anyway, it gave the board a little bit of presence by the end, but still.
I thought the player board was decent.
Yeah, player board was good. They were a little warped, but overall they were laid out well. Kind of like I said, the board is laid out well. It's just I wish it just looked a little bit better.
Sure.
But I think even with those negatives, just what this one offered, just the fun kind of managing your resources in order to take the certain actions and use those to the best of your ability. Take advantage of, if you do get a single resource die and getting 6 action points to do something, just taking advantage of that and, making sure you're able to, maybe build a couple buildings or a couple pillars or something. Yeah, if you're able to. It's just a lot of fun. And I would say this one for me, it comes in at maybe like a 9.25, 9.5. I obviously have to play this one more, but I really, really like this one. A lot.
I know you do. I know you do. Look, it wasn't terrible, okay? Like, there are crunchy games that I play and I will never play again, like Cusco. Like, no interest. I do not want to go back to that game ever again. Tiletum wasn't terrible. I think it will improve on more playthroughs just because you understand, the board better. Because you know how close things are. You know where you can put your houses. You know what that looks like. And then I think, too, just, like, really being able to chain through, like, okay, so here's how these interact together. Here's how these interactions, play out when you're doing stuff like that, and how can we kind of hit, all of these with the limited actions that you do have. So I thought that somebody had said in one of the reviews we had watched that it was like it's like a fight inside your brain or something like that. But it's not a bad fight. Like, I think it's good. Like, it's very engaging to think about, how do I do this? And I often found myself going, okay, so I need this action, this action, and this action. But what are my backups? Or how can I do this? And what order do I need to take them in? And typically I'm not a girl who likes to do that in games because by the time it gets to your turn, those options could be gone. But I felt like in this game, it was a good puzzle, a good scratch at it. So it was frustrating just because Zach grasped it faster than I do, but I wouldn't say it's a bad game. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds fair. But yeah, I would highly recommend this one, especially if you tend to like their style of games. I think this is going to give you another one of those types of experiences, or at least check out further, see other reviews and stuff. But yeah, if you liked our review, give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see future content. But otherwise, we hope to see you on our other videos, and as always, don't forget to keep on nibbling on our content.